calling the finance meeting to order. Is there any public comment? Hearing none, we'll move to approval of meeting minutes from August 22nd. Is there a motion?
Make a motion to approve the minutes from August 22nd finance meeting.
I'll second the motion. Any questions or comments? Excuse me. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Next, we have our topic for discussion, which is the Cumberland County Talent Development Program. Jen and Molly. And Sam.
Thank you, Commissioners. The HR department has been working on a training / talent development proposal for some time now. It's a recognized need here at the county. We are at a level or a point where we are prepared to move forward with a proposal for the commissioners on how to move that program forward for 2019. So Jen Getz, our training manager, will be taking over the presentation. If you have any questions, please let us know.
Okay.
Before we get into the specifics of the program, I'd like to discuss why we're referring to it as talent development and not just a training program.
Actually, that's going to be my first question.
See, I anticipated it. Okay, so, because talent development is more than training. It's broader, it's more strategic, it's proactive, not reactive. It focuses on the long term versus the short term, and it helps prepare employees for future roles and challenges. And the key elements of a talent development program are onboarding, employee development, performance management, career development, and succession planning. So focusing on more than just training, talent development will provide tools for employees to advance in their careers, ensure the workforce is developing skill sets that will be needed for the future, attract, develop, motivate, and retain productive and engaged employees, create an environment where people are engaged and have high work performance, improve leadership effectiveness, develop managers and leaders, create an organization that meets its strategic goals and objectives, and provide for the future needs of the county. So currently, the county offers training for all new employees on their first day, which is known as new employee orientation. We also have a number of in-house trainings to include merit-based compensation, and anti-harassment, labor management, and new policy review. But those are specific to the nursing home, and we need to look at extending those for all departments. We also offer external training and development opportunities to include seminars and conferences. So the vision we have for the program, we'd like to see the county have a program that is self-sustaining, doesn't need to be recreated each year. We'll develop current and future employees to meet the needs of the county today and for years to come. Help the county attract, develop, motivate, and retain productive and engaged employees. Identify career paths, so employees will view the county as a career and not just a job. And will prepare the county for the future retirements and departures by planning and cross-training. We'd also like to modify the new employee orientation program to be a little bit more welcoming, engaging, and interactive. Offer some in-house trainings to include conflict management, customer service skills, effective meetings, taking meeting minutes, and sexual harassment. We'd like to create a supervisor academy for all new and current supervisors to include Supervisory 101, interview and personnel selection, and labor relations, to name a few. We'd also like to create a leadership programs to develop emerging leaders and current leaders. The plan would be to work with a consultant to develop the programs with the long-term goal of the HR manager managing the programs. We'd also like to offer DISC Workplace to departments, employees, and supervisors who want to improve their communications, strengthen their working relationships, and improve productivity. And we'd also like to create a mentoring program for new employees as well as those emerging leaders we talked about. So, We would like a program that has both mandatory trainings for all employees as well as optional courses that they can select. I've identified some of those on this slide. Some of them I foresee being web-based and others are going to be more effective in a classroom setting. Any questions on those before I move forward? So for the Supervisor Academy, it would be mandatory for all supervisors. And these courses, some of them are already developed. Others of them, like Supervisory 101 and Labor Relations and Interview and Personnel Selection, would need to be developed. I came up with this list based on my observations since I've been at the county, as well as my past experiences in other jobs. Of course, these are always subject to change based on the needs assessment that we would do. The county currently has 213 supervisors, and those include supervisors in row offices. So it would take an average of 6 to 9 classes per course to get all the current supervisors trained. And of course, that number will fluctuate depending on how many of the row offices choose to participate in the training. Any questions about the Supervisory Academy? Leadership development. I foresee the county offering 2 types of leadership programs, one for emerging leaders and one for experienced leaders. Emerging leaders would be a program for early to mid-career employees that show potential to advance into leadership roles. Advanced leadership would be a program to enhance the skills of our current leaders. And again, those would be developed in conjunction with a consultant. So the vision for the HR manager position would be more than just a trainer, but rather take more of a strategic approach, be viewed as an advisor on employee and workplace issues, and a resource to help the leadership team. Of course, we would still address the training needs of the employees, but also focus on the overall development needs to ensure the entire workforce is developing deeper skill sets now and obtaining skills that they will need for the future. So how do we achieve this vision? We need to start with identifying and contracting with a consultant to assist with getting the program up and running. We would work with that consultant to conduct a needs assessment and develop a plan to meet those needs. While identifying a consultant, HR will begin to develop the Supervisory Academy and mandatory trainings for all employees, of course focusing on the higher priorities. As I had mentioned before, I envision the in-house programs being a combination of instructor-led classroom and web-based. And of course, as we progress through these, we're going to want to evaluate and modify programs where needed. So evaluations can be done via the end of the training evaluation forms, pre and post tests, as well as following up with supervisors and managers to see how employees are utilizing the skills that they learn. So you've heard me say a couple times about needs assessment. A critical piece to having a successful talent development program is to conduct a needs assessment to determine where there are gaps in knowledge, skills, and abilities. I strongly recommend that we conduct the training needs assessment in conjunction with a consultant because it's critical to the success of this program. And the county has not had a training needs assessment in some time, if ever. We can't verify that either way. And it's a huge undertaking for one individual, given that we're talking about 1,300 employees and 52 different departments. I also feel that a consultant can help us move the county from where we are today to where we want to be in 3 years, 5 years, 10 years. So to ensure that we are meeting the needs of all those departments within the county, I'm recommending that we establish a talent development committee with leaders from different departments who can give feedback on the suggested programs and help market the programs to others. I created a mission statement for the Talent Development Committee. However, it is subject to change after the committee is established and meets. but I envision the mission of the committee being along the lines of to help establish and implement a program that attracts talent and develops current workforce to meet the county's immediate and future needs while improving morale, individual and organizational performance, and supporting employee development by providing high-quality educational programs. So we talked about contracting with a consultant. In preparation for this presentation, I researched a number of options for consultants and have identified 5 for you to consider. There are packets in each of your folders on the different consultants and information about them as well as testimonials. Just to hit each one of them briefly, Shippensburg University, the county previously met with them to discuss what they had to offer a little more than a year ago. Metz Consulting Group, Barry Metz previously worked with the county from 2006 to 2011, presenting various leadership programs. Liz Weber, I have personally participated in a number of her sessions and worked with her previously at another employment. Slate Consultants was referred by Team Approach. I have attended sessions by Team Approach and previously had staff who attended their DIS certification program. And last but not least, Dairy Consulting is a known entity in state government and the industry, and I've attended some of their sessions as well. So request for proposal. Per the solicitor's office, a consultant for this purpose is considered a professional service, and legally we are not required to do an RFP. The selected consultant, however, would need their contract approved at a Board of Commissioners meeting. So if we decide to go with an RFP, here is the anticipated timeline. We would be working with the solicitor's office ASAP, but it would be the end of November before we'd be in a position to decide which consultants to meet with, and possibly as late as April and May before we can begin working with a consultant.
So that timeline seems to be very long.
I had talked to the commissioner's office, or I'm sorry, solicitor's office, regarding the steps that we would be required as far as advertising, notice, getting approval, allowing 3 to 4 weeks for it to be out there. And then once they come in, reviewing them with you, plus once we get into November, December, we've got the Thanksgiving, Christmas holiday, which of course may be difficult to get some of the consultants that we would select in and make a decision. We could possibly accomplish it in a shorter time frame. We would just have to see how quick we could get things moving and get on various agendas and that. All right, so if we don't go with an RFP and we make a decision to meet with one or all of the consultants that I have identified, we could probably start meeting with them as early as next month, depending on their schedule, and could begin working with them hopefully no later than the beginning of next year. Any questions regarding the RFP before I move forward?
Well, one timeline is with an RFP, the other timeline is not.
Correct.
Because of professional service, there's no requirement for an RFP.
Right.
Okay.
So you're saying the list that you have is what you would consider the best around?
Those are the ones that we, I know Jen has experience with 3 of them. The county has a previous relationship with Barry Metz, and we had discussed with Shippensburg University. Certainly there are other consultants available, but these are the ones that we have experience with as known entities.
Okay.
And of course, if the commissioners have any others, or chief clerk has any others that we would like to consider, you know, those are options as well.
Can't say I have.
No, neither do I. So So relative to the length of time for a consultant to come in here and help us put the program together, if I understand that's what you're saying. What length of time are we talking about?
As far as how long they would be working.
Right.
I think that's going to depend on the consultant, their approach, what we ask them to assist with. I'm not sure that we can really address that with a solid answer until we start to bring some of the consultants in and speak with them as far as, specifically, here's where the county's at, here's what we have and don't have, this is what we want, and how will you help us get to that point. The packets do include, I spoke to the consultants and gathered some information. Some of them gave me a little bit of an idea of how they would approach it. Time frame wise, we didn't really accomplish that in our discussions.
Those are certainly questions. We would have a list of questions when we would bring consultants in. Certainly, their approach and the length of time would be forefront on understanding.
Because essentially, if I'm looking at this, correct me if I'm wrong, but we're not potentially engaging the consultant until the beginning of next year or sometime the middle of next year. So that's when he starts. When does his training start? Or when does the talent development start? Are we looking like 2 years from now?
No, so while the needs assessment is being conducted by the consultant, Jennifer would be developing the supervisor academy and mandatory employee trainings that would start immediately.
Okay.
I think the supervisory training, we're looking at late winter of 18 and 19. And the employees. So there are things that we can do immediately while the needs assessment is being conducted.
As well as the ADA training that we're required to put out. That's another one that I've been working on in the meantime. Now, we might be able to get a consultant in here earlier than those 2 times. I was just trying to give, hopefully, the worst case scenario, especially since we're coming to the end of the year, and sometimes trying to get them in just to have a meeting with them, depending on what other prior engagements and commitments they have, and everyone else's schedule. So I try to add a little bit of padding to it to make sure we try to meet those goals. But those would be my worst case scenario, hopefully, timeframes.
Who does the supervising 101 labor relations, interviewing personnel selection, courses, chronos?
They're being developed internally, and they will be delivered by Jennifer.
Except for the chronos right now.
It's by ERP.
Okay, and so it says, is this being a little too ambitious in terms of expecting these trainings to start fall 2018, or are we shooting for in the next month or 2?
No, the majority of those trainings are developed, or we have a framework for them, so it's just a matter of going back, updating for processes and procedures, which have changed at the county since they were initially developed.
We are attempting to make this mandatory for all supervisors. And I see your hope is to have the elected officials of row offices. Have we had conversation with the other row offices? Are they receptive to this mandatory training?
Not all. I mean, I haven't personally spoken to all of them, but in conversation with a couple of them as I've been assisting them with some other issues, have expressed to me that when we have these programs up and running, that they have a desire to send their staff because they feel that they will benefit from the training. So that, of course, is not speaking for all the row offices, but the ones that I have seem to be supportive of employee development and training.
And certainly once we have approval to move forward, we would offer it to everybody that is a supervisor, including the row office supervisors, and we have a better sense then.
And also, I think on the committee, we had identified that we would have a representative or maybe 2 from the row offices to be part of the committee to express, and provide input, and hopefully as well get buy-in into the program.
Any additional questions right now?
There's a couple
Yeah, I
of
see.
slides.
I have a few more slides.
Okay.
Good to move forward? Okay.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, that's okay. So creating, this kind of goes to actually your comments.
I was looking ahead here, I jumped in. So-
That's okay. Creating a talent development program is not a quick and easy process. But here are some of the long-term goals that I have for the program, which would be develop a workforce that meets the county's immediate needs, but also looks at the future needs and to attract talent to sustain those needs. Improve individual and organizational performance, better serve the residents of Cumberland County and increase customer satisfaction, improve employee morale and increase productivity, decrease turnover and minimizing the crippling effect when talent does leave. So short-term goals and time frame, of course, would be to identify a consultant, establish a talent development committee, modify the new orientation program, obtain DISC workplace certification for the training manager, develop courses for the supervisory academy, develop a system for tracking employee training, and our current learning management system, Moodle, may suffice with that. I need to work some with IT. Offer DISC as requested from various departments. So then last but not least, the next steps and direction that we need from the Board of Commissioners is to approval of the proposal presented today, all or in part, and or suggest modifications to include, do we put out an RFP or not? And are there any other consultants that are not identified that you would like to consider? HR recommends starting with one or more of the identified consultants and schedule meetings with them for September or October. If the Board of Commissioners is not prepared to make a decision on this today, we can schedule this topic for another finance meeting in September. And as far as whether we start with the identified consultants now, if we go through those and the Board of Commissioners, always has the option of doing an RFP later down the road if you're not sure about the 5 that have been presented.
Jen has put a lot of research and time into this presentation and the proposal for the program, and she's very anxious, as I am, to get the program up and running. I know it's been a long time we've been waiting for this. I think we have a solid plan to work with consultants to identify the needs of the county. I think we have a good idea of what we think the needs are, but in order for the program to be successful, we want to be sure of what those needs are and be able to meet those needs whatever program we move forward with. So, just want to commend Jen on the work that she put into this presentation, the research, the conversations, and the motivation that she brings to this program area.
Yeah, no, I think it's a very good presentation. And gives us some things to think about. I'm not quite sure how I feel about going with an RFP or just having some meetings with some of the selected folks here. I don't know that I have a position on that. Do you have a recommendation? Steve, do you have a recommendation on how we might, or what do you think, or how do you think we should proceed with the engagement of the consultant? Of course, you guys need to know this. I'm going to be interested in what this is all going to cost, too. She didn't give us any cost numbers today.
And we won't have an answer until we meet with the consultants to understand exactly what the depth and breadth of what they would be willing to provide.
Exactly. Well, yeah. What it is they're going to do for us. Exactly. So
there are some line item. I think HR has some monies in their budget now, and they're looking to roll some forward. Is it 20 or 40? So I wasn't anticipating you asking me first, but I would say that from some of the feedback, the exploration with Shippensburg and the prior history with Mr. Metz seems to gel with me. So, but does HR have? Where would you focus on 2 or 3? I think Mr. Metz may be a concurrent recommendation.
If I had to add a third one to your list, I would go with Liz Weber.
So,
I think they offer three very different approaches, just in my reading of the materials. We have met with Shippensburg University, that's kind of the institutional concept, whereas Barry Metz, we were familiar with his style as well. I think a lot of county employees are familiar with his style, and then Liz Weber, based on the feedback from Jen, I think she would be a nice kind of third alternative option to the other two.
Well, if we're not going to go with an RFP, at least I think it's going to be important that we at least, I think, interview or have meetings with at least three. I don't think we should just pick one, because I am going to be interested in, you know, the service that's going to be provided and the cost. So, you know, just to get an idea as to what we're talking about.
You have 5 consultants listed, though. What about the other 2, Slate and Darren?
I've never actually worked with Slate Consulting. I have attended programs through Team Approach, and they were the ones who referred, when I reached out to them, they referred me to her. So I've had a phone conversation with her. She has a lot of great ideas, a lot of energy. You know, I would love to, you know, if we're willing to look at, you know, more than 3, I think it, you know, it would be great to bring her in and hear what she has to offer as well. As far as Daring Consulting, they've been around for quite a while. I know them mainly from state government, but I also know that they have quite a reputation in, you know, the approach that they would take should we select them.
So are you saying that the 3 you have here, Shippensburg, Metz, and Weber, are your top 3 at least to start with?
I think that would be a good starting point. That's my recommendation.
And we're not under any obligation because we're still RFP. So I'd be okay with that, Jim. I know Gary's not here, but I think he's okay, at least to start the conversation. It doesn't put us on the hook with anyone.
Yeah, that's fine. And I know Gary's attending another event here this afternoon.
He's still stuck at this message.
I'm willing to move forward, and you know, but I think that we should follow up with Gary and share the information, share this before we actually do anything. But
I would concur with that because I believe he has a strong interest and background in this area.
Would you like me to follow up with him after sending like a meeting invite and sit down with him and just discuss the?
that's fine. I mean, as opposed to setting up another meeting with the fund.
Right.
I think I'm prepared to move forward with it. You know, I think anything we can do to, you know, better equip our current employees to address the issues that they have to deal with on a daily basis. And, you know, and the other thing I was thinking about here too is we may have some long-term employees who maybe work in one department who might be thinking about, you know, maybe another opportunity in another department. And, you know, I hope that maybe this training might touch on that, you know, to give, you know, dedicated employees some other options to consider. But, you know, I think, you know, this goes a long way in terms of, you know, compensation system, merit-based compensation, trying to reward people for going above and beyond, also allow them to develop themselves for whatever options they might choose. But I think that, you know, anything we do, you know, improve the capabilities of our staff, I think is good. Good thing.
Well, and this shows that the county's willing to invest in our employees, so we'll assist in employee morale, and benefit the county at the same time, because anytime we can, you know, cross-train or succession plan, that benefits us in the long run.
Yeah, good. Well done, Joe.
Yeah, this looks very good. Jim, do you think we should make a motion on this?
Yeah, I can make, I'll do this, I'll make a motion that we move forward as suggested with the development of a talent development program for Cumberland County, and, you know, pending the, you know, concurrence of our pilot Commissioner Eichelberger. Does that work?
Well, I think you want to start conversations with the these three.
So what I would propose that we follow up with Gary to make sure that he's okay with the decisions that we discussed here today. And once we have that, we can move forward with engaging the conversations. But in the meantime, we will still work on developing the trainings that we are able to do in-house.
I'll second Jim's motion.
Yeah, well, it incorporates what you just said, so.
Yeah.
I don't know who has that motion, or Michelle.
You got it. She's, I'll second the motion. Any questions or comments? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you. Anything else, ladies? All right, thank you. Any other business to discuss? Is there a motion to adjourn?